tell you about it on the podcast.
Good evening, everyone. You just heard that voice. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the PorscheCooled Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things Porsche. Steve's not here. Steve's off making the moolah. He's off making the Lady Godivas. He's off making the money. He's not here today. Steve, I know you love me saying that, but guess who's here? And you would have seen it in the title. Flat cap driver, Ajmal. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. And thank you for having me on again. And I don't know what Lady Godivas are. I thought they were boobs.
I thought Lady Godiva was a Cockney term. I used to work with a guy years ago when I worked in fashion, when I worked at Giorgio Armani. And he used to always say Lady Godiva for fiver. Can you give me a Lady Godiva? Which means fiver.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. But when you call it Lady Godiva...
Is that Cockney slang?
I guess it is, but it just made me think of boobs. I don't know.
You're seeing the front of the boat. You know the front of the boat where that woman's on the front of the boat? That's what you're seeing, right?
Yes. Yes.
As a kid, you'd see the model boats and you'd stare there staring at the model boats and your mother would say, "What are you staring at?" And you say, "The sails, Mum, the sails."
Yes. Yes, exactly. Anyway, this is a strange way to start. But anyway, hello and thank you for having me on.
All right. To all the listeners, I hope my levels are a bit crazy today. I'm going to turn that down. To all the listeners who don't know who Ajmal is, Ajmal's flat cap driver. Ajmal, you have a YouTube channel. You want to explain to the listeners who are new to the channel who don't know what your YouTube channel is all about? Explain it in 100 words or less.
The new tagline for my YouTube channel is the channel that doesn't know what it wants to be. And it's just me rambling on for about 10 minutes twice a week. But a lot of it's to do with my journey of owning the cheapest Porsche 911 in the UK. That's manual hardtop with an MOT and a rear-wheel drive. For anyone listening outside of the UK, MOT is where it's basically road legal, deemed road legal and road safe. And it's that. And at the moment, I'm in the market for a Boxster. I've got a 912, have stories about that. So it's generally just me rambling on in my car.
I want to talk about the Boxster because I didn't know that for sure. And I know you've been talking about it on your channel. And last week when I was here sitting by myself in my lonely room here and chatting to myself, to everyone on the podcast, I was talking about Boxsters because I've been looking at them as well. And I found a couple in Australia, but they're obviously a lot more expensive than the UK and the US. UK and US prices seem to be quite good. But I want to talk about that with you, actually, because I want to put something forward to you about how you get to the Porsche that you want or how you get to your dream Porsche. And it's kind of based on the owner's stories this week, which I want to talk about just really quickly, Ajmal. But if you just give me 5 minutes, I just want to start with the usual, because I always like to start with the usual in the podcast because everyone is aware of what I normally do.
And I'm sorry, I always throw that process off every single time.
I always forget. Sometimes I'm with Stephen now. Like a couple of episodes, I realize, I didn't mention that. And luckily, there was no new Patreon members. But Patreon is where you support the podcast. You join PorscheCooled. You can join PorscheCooled Exclusive, PorscheCooled Exclusive Plus. They're the main two. But it starts at $2 a month, up to $10 a month, and it just helps us keep talking. And you just go to Patreon, search PorscheCooled, or you go, patreon.com/PorscheCooled. The other thing I just want to do a shout out before we get into the chat, Ajmal, I just want to read out the couple of reviews that have come through this week. One person I know. I know who it is. The first person, I'm not sure who it is, actually. 2 new reviews on Apple ratings and reviews. Apple ratings and reviews, basically you go to Apple Podcasts, you can leave a star rating, you can leave a review if you've got a few more minutes. And basically all it does is it lets us get seen in the search results. There's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of automotive podcasts. It's very hard to break the US market, as they say in the pop business. Podcasts are pretty much the same. There's a lot of competition out there. So we're trying to get seen by a lot of our US listeners. And I know a lot of people are spreading it, word of mouth, which is great. But the reviews also help. So the first one, Be Cool by Air of Water, one of my favorite Porsche podcasts. Love the owner stories episodes and hearing how people get into the brand and how they feel about it. Keep up the great work. That's from Igal Eli. I hope I pronounced that right, from the US. This one is from Re-Engineering. Re-Engineering is Paul. I've been chatting about Paul. Hopefully he's going to come on a owner stories. It's a long one, so maybe I shouldn't read it all. But there's a lot of showboating and unreliable content across YouTube and sometimes Spotify. Credit to Michael, Bath, and Steve for putting such high-quality waffle out and getting high-quality waffle, I like that, and getting the PorscheCooled podcast out so regularly. So on those two key points, one, the lack of showboating and fuss around the latest model being the only model worth talking about. Whatever you have, if it's a Porsche model, you'll get loads of this. Two, the work rate, getting them so frequently means I'm rarely running out of good Porsche content to listen to. All the best, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for that. And thank you, Ili. That's how I'll pronounce it. So if you can leave us a review, like I said, just go to Apple Reviews, and when you're listening, just give us a star. Ajmal.
Hello.
Did you listen to, I'm sure you haven't because you've been off celebrating your 10th wedding anniversary, which is very exciting. I saw it on Instagram. You had nice photos of the wine and the food that you are indulging in over the last few days.
Oh, it was lovely. And I went into a bit of a food coma yesterday by about 6 o'clock, but luckily I recovered to continue by about 7:30.
Really? It looked like a lovely place where you're at. It looked like a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's a place called Limewoods down in New Forest. So an old building, lovely, lovely place with amazing food and just incredibly relaxing. And obviously not having any children with us, it was amazing. Not, as much as I love my children, but, it was...
just in case they're listening.
No, they shouldn't be there asleep. but it was lovely, yes. But sorry, you were going to say about the owner story.
Yeah, so owner stories came out today, number 50. And number 50, I had Bobby on. And I had a really good chat with Bobby. He's a really nice guy. Bobby's from Portland in Oregon. Hi, Bobby, I know you're listening. And Bobby's the proud owner, the new owner of a 2008 997 Carrera 4S, black, beautiful leather interior. But Bobby's story, Ajmal, was actually a good one, and I want to kind of relate this back to you shortly. But he was a new owner of the 911. This is what he sent to me originally, and I'm sure, Bobby, you don't mind me reading this out. He's retired after 30-year career in law enforcement. He was a canine handler. He always wanted a 911, but he couldn't justify the cost. So he bought cars that were practical, Ajmal. He bought cars that were fit for a purpose. The 911 at that point wasn't really the sort of car that he was looking at. And then he got close, and I hope I'm right with this, Bobby. I think when you got close to retiring, he decided that he was going to make his way up the ladder, so to speak. And he had to do it at no cost if possible, because his wife didn't want him to spend any more money. So it was about doing it at little cost as possible and buying the right cars and making your way up to that dream car, that 911, that Porsche, your first Porsche. So Bobby's story, he started with a 2013, I think it was, Toyota pickup. He then went to that 69 Camaro, which, I don't hate muscle cars. I don't know what you think about them, Ajmal. I don't hate them. And I think Bobby's one was a really cool looking one. That Camaro that he had was a really prime example. And then he went to this, then he sold the Camaro. Well, he didn't really sell it. He kind of swapped it. He swapped it for this Factory 5 Racing 65 Shelby Cobra, which was probably worth more than his Camaro, but he did the deal. He swapped it. He got this Shelby Cobra. Obviously, the prices increased on that, and then he traded that. He sold that, I should say, and then he got his 911. So he made the way up, the progression up, Ajmal, which I think is a really good story. It's like, because there's a lot of people out there listening to the podcast, and I know you bought the cheapest 996 in the UK, and it was in, what magazine was that in, for the people that don't know?
It was 911 World or Porsche 911. I can't remember.
Porsche 911 World, yeah. So there's an article in there that about Ajmal's 996, but like we said, on his YouTube channel, you can see all these videos. So you either get the cheapest one. If you want something slightly better, well then, and if you don't want to, you want to make your way up to it, then it's being clever. And I think Bobby was actually quite smart. He's quite good with his money. He bought the right cars, he got the right deals, and he traded up. And now he's got his 997 4S, which is a really nice example. So if you haven't heard Owner Stories this week, go and have a listen. It comes out every Tuesday. It came out, Ajmal and I are actually recording this on a Tuesday, even though it's Friday's episode, but it came out today.
Yeah, I haven't heard it yet. I have heard the previous one, which was Benjamin, was it?
Yeah, Benjamin. Yeah, Mod Classic. Yeah, Benjamin's a great guy too. Yeah.
I liked that one, and I'll get back to that one in a minute. But with the trading up, it's a great way of doing it because you can be quite methodical.
Yes, and I think it comes back to, I was thinking about this just before we came online on Zoom, and I thought it kind of, because you're in that situation a little bit, and I want to just come back to that. But just go back to Benjamin. I just got a message from Benjamin, actually. He's going to Luft 7. He just reached out to me and said he was going to Luft 7 and asked me if I wanted anything from Luft 7, which was really kind of him. That was a great story. If you haven't heard Benjamin's story, that was a couple of weeks ago. I'd like to go to a Luft one day, Ajmal, wouldn't you? I almost went to the one in the UK, but then I couldn't. I seem to be having this regular thing with these Porsche shows. I seem to be almost going and never seem to get there. But Luft 7 is on in the US on this Friday. I think it starts this Friday. So that'd be pretty cool. I think it's in Indiana. I wrote it down. It's in Indiana. So I'm sure there's quite a lot of the US listeners who are actually going to that. So,
without giving too much away of the new owner story, but I've been thinking about that because I'd read the blurb that you put on Instagram about the latest owner story and the trading up process, because you can have, if your first Porsche is going to be a 911, because let's face it, if you haven't had a Porsche before, your ultimate Porsche isn't going to be anything other than 911. Am I making a big sweeping statement here, or am I just kind of hitting the nail on the head?
Well, this came up with Brian, who was last week. Brian on Owner Stories. Manuel996 on Instagram. Or Manuel996 on Instagram. And Brian bought the Macan. I don't know whether you listened to that one. Brian bought the Macan.
I did, yes.
And then he had the Macan and literally, you know, Brian, I know you're listening as well, but Brian had the Macan, I think, for 2 weeks, and then he realized that what he should have bought was a 911. 2 months later, he sold the Macan and he's got a 911. And I think that is the worst feeling you can have, you know what I mean, when you do that. And sometimes it happens to people, Ajmal, not when you buy the wrong Porsche, but if you buy a car which is a dud. You know what I mean? It happened to me with the Peugeot that I bought years ago. You buy a dud and it's like, I just got to get rid of this. I don't care. And that's what happens. Not saying that any other Porsches are a dud, but it's like most people's dreams are of 911s. There have been a few people on Owner Stories who have had the dream of getting a Boxster or, you know, starting off on the Boxster side of it. But most people, like you said, when you're thinking you want a Porsche, you want a 911. And some people use the stepping stone of getting maybe a Boxster and then making their way up or something like that, or just buying what you can afford now, driving it, enjoying it, and getting there. So Bobby's story, I kind of relate it to you a little bit because you bought your 996 and you bought it really cheap, right?
Yep.
You bought your 912. Looking back, even with your 912, and I don't know whether you're still sharing how much you paid for that car, but looking back at your 912, even the price of that now, looking at the prices of the 912 market, you still bought it at a good price.
Yeah, it was. I think the 996 was definitely cheap, and when you go for something at that end of the market, it's a risk. It's a huge risk. And from my point of view, I took a massive leap because I was trying to prove a point to a friend of mine. And I just went, right, I'm just going to buy the cheapest one. I didn't know anything about IMS. I didn't know anything about what faults they might have because, like I told you before, I wasn't a Porsche guy. Yeah. I didn't know anything about them. I just said, I'm going to go out and buy the cheapest 911. And when I first found out about it and I looked into it, obviously it had problems, but the seller, and you've talked about this with Steve and we've mentioned it before, where you buy the seller. Yes. And it was a lady who owned it. And she was really genuine, honest, but she didn't know a lot about the car. And you know, the brakes failed when I first went to see it. And so, but when I was incredibly lucky that I got it, and my first experience of driving a Porsche was being in a 911 and it was already mine. And I was already able to just get in it and drive it, get comfortable and thrash it and do whatever I wanted to do to it. But if you're going to graduate to a 911, it's a slightly different process because if you think about, you know, you went, well, actually in my journey, like, was it Brian? Was it Benjamin? Benjamin who bought the Macan. Was it Brian? Brian, who bought the Macan, that you have an expectation of what it's going to be like. And he obviously jumped in that Macan. There was probably, I suspect there was nothing wrong with the Macan, but it just didn't meet his expectations of what it meant to be in an iconic brand car.
Yeah. And it was a great example, as he said. It was a great example. It was well looked. It was, you know, Porsche certified, I think, low miles. It was everything you want in a Macan, but it wasn't a 911.
So when you and for me, So, but the thing that I'm always confused by is when people buy a Boxster. No, I'm not actually confused by it. I know why, because people buy a Boxster, and Boxster has a bad name, unfairly so, because of what Jeremy Clarkson said when it first came out. The Boxster is for people who can't afford a Boxster S, and the Boxster S isn't for people who can't afford a 911. But that stigma is stuck to that car for a really long time, and it's only now shaking it off. And if for people who say, well, my first step onto the Porsche ladder on my way to a 911 is a Boxster, most of them that I've known of eventually come back to a Boxster, because they go, hey, do you know what? For every day, just getting in it and enjoying it and being able to access the power and the enjoyment, it's probably an easier transition than a 911.
Yeah. It surprises me. It does surprise me though how many people that have 911s that do want Boxsters now. Because I don't think originally it would have been that way. I don't think originally people would say that I'll get a Boxster as well to go alongside my 911. They might say I'll get a 964 air-cooled if I've got a 997, or I'll get a 993. But Boxsters, don't you think Boxsters though, and I know I've mentioned this before, Boxsters are a little bit like cabs. They're a bit like cabriolets. And last night I did a search. I was searching, not in the UK, but I was searching on, car sales in Australia, the main site, for the cheapest 996 you could buy. The cheapest 996, and it would have to be a cabriolet, because that's what you're going to get. The cheapest 996 will be a cabriolet. And a few come up, and I think the cheapest one, I'm going to test my memory here, I think it was about 35,000 or 39,000 Australian. So it's on par almost, Ajmal, with some of the Boxster prices now. And I thought, well, that's a dilemma, Like, do you go for a Boxster manual, 986, maybe it's a Boxster S, or do you go for a 996? There was a beautiful white 1998, which James at Porsche Platz always said that the first 1998 ones were the better ones, they were lighter. Obviously, the cabriolet is going to be heavier, I think, maybe a bit heavier. But do you go for a 996 Boxster S in manual, or do you go for almost the same price? Do you get a 996 cabriolet, and then you're in a 911? But it's automatic. That's the problem. It's automatic.
Ah, right. Okay. So a lot of that's to do with your journey on that, with your Porsche journey. Because if you're towards the early part of your journey and the prices are similar, you might go, well, do you know what? I'm just going to take the leap and I'm going to jump into a 911. And I can say that I've got a 911. I've experienced one. But if you've done that, and then just for pure enjoyment, and you just want to be able to get out and the Boxster is made to be a convertible. It's not something that's had its roof chopped off and strengthened and the weight changed, so it's not operating in its optimum environment or bandwidth, if I could say that. So for pure enjoyment, I'd say if you take that element of the 911 illogical element out of it, I'd say you're going to get more enjoyment out of a mid-engined, made-to-be convertible Boxster. And also, even if you got the 986 2.5, you're fully accessing all of the power and you're properly enjoying it. Whereas a 911, even my 911, which is really old, it's a 1998 996, it's a Carrera 2, and if I'm on some of the shorter country lanes, you can't properly go, because if you're doing 70 in second, you're breaking the speed limit on 80% of the roads.
Oh, so you've got the 98. I forgot about that. Yours is a 98 as well.
Yep.
Because I always remember what James at Porsche Platz said, who was on Owner Stories and who's been on a couple of episodes in Melbourne. And James, I know you're listening. And he said to me there was a reason that he thought the 98 was the better one because it was lighter. It was a lighter car than the year later or 2 years later. I should know my facts before I come on. I'll get in trouble not knowing my facts.
Mine's still the analog one, so it's got the cable accelerator. It hasn't got the electric one, and it hasn't got the electric hood and trunk lid release.
Oh, right.
And it's all manual. It's not electric.
Wow.
And I'm not sure about the weight, but I have talked to a few people who've driven the Carrera 4s of the same kind of era.
Okay.
And they've said they just feel different. The whole weight distribution, and when you're going through the corners and bends, it doesn't feel the same as a rear-wheel drive early 996 compared to a later one.
And I want to go back to the automatic thing too, the Tiptronic, and not the PDK, but the Tiptronic. I don't want to say it's a bad transmission because I've had people on Owner Stories recently and in the past who have got Tiptronics automatics. There's nothing wrong with it. Obviously, all the purists want the manual. there's been many people on owner stories who have said that they can get a lot out of the Tiptronic, out of the automatic, and it actually works, pretty good. Do you know what I mean? So
yep.
I just looking at that last night, I'm just thinking, will that deter you? But I think what you said is interesting, actually. But would it deter you? Do you want to, under 100,000 kilometer, 60,000 mile, 98 white cab in auto, or do you want 150,000, 130,000 986 Carrera Boxster S for about the same price? And this is Australian prices. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a difficult decision for people to make, especially people who don't know much about the brand. And I think, you say you're not a Porsche guy, Ajmal, and I know you always said that, but, over the last couple of years, you kind of have become a Porsche guy, because of your YouTube channel. And the knowledge that you have now is obviously a lot greater than what you had in the beginning. And so many people that have been on, even I think Bobby said it to me as well. He didn't know much about Porsche. And, there's so many episodes of the PorscheCooled Podcast and also my YouTube channel when I used to make videos of the 997 because I own a 997 and Steve has a 997 GT3. And I think that sort of content it's rarer than we think, and it is quite invaluable, like your YouTube channel as well, where you've got the 996 and you've got a 60s, 912, and the fact that you can talk about them and people just want to know about it, and forums don't give you that information. Community forums don't really give you the information. It's the interaction. I think the interaction on your channel, the interaction on anyone's, my YouTube channel, where people in the comments, Instagram, I think, is even better than YouTube. I think the DMs that people send me, some good, some bad, but most DMs are quite good. And where you can just help someone, where you've actually helped someone and they tell you and they say, that's great information. Have you had that happen to you with the 912 and 996 videos?
Absolutely. I mean, lots of people have contacted me about especially the 912 when I first got it. And I mean, I remember you contacted me about it. That's when we first started speaking. Yeah. And you said, whoa, hang on. Where's the process of looking for it? And I went, no, I just found one and I bought it. But people have contacted me and said, look, I'm looking at one and I'm looking for criteria. And I said, well, I can tell you in hindsight what the criteria should be. But my criteria was I went online and I searched for 912s and I sorted them by the one nearest to me.
Yeah, that's not the way you should do it.
And it's not. And, and with the 911, I did it the other way. And I just sorted it by the one that was the lowest price, but was also manual and a hardtop and a rear-wheel drive.
Okay, so here you are. And I don't think you have the 912 with you at the moment, do you? It's in storage somewhere, right? But you have
no.
You have your 912 and you have your 996, and you bought them long enough ago that prices have shifted, right? Prices have shifted.
Yep.
Does the thought cross? And I know you're thinking about a Boxster. Now, are you thinking though at the back of your mind also that if I sold the 912 and I sold the 996? I could actually go up a rung and I could get something else in the Porsche range?
Yes, I did think about that, because if I sold the 912 and the 996, I would have a decent amount of money to get something towards the top end of a 997. Mm-hmm. And if I really went out on a limb and I sold my MGB from 1968 as well, and
a GT3, you mean?
No, not a GT3. But if I went a little bit further, maybe I could get something towards the bottom of 991.
Right.
If I stretched myself.
Yes.
But the thing that I think back about is that if I'm at the moment, I need to generate income from whatever I'm doing with YouTube and all of this stuff. And I have to think about what I want to do, but I don't want to do that thing where I'm doing things for the views. Here's me picking up my new Lamborghini that I've financed up to my eyeballs, just for the hits. So if I sold, with my current financial situation, I sold my 911, I would realistically think, hang on, how am I going to get another 911? I'm not, because I'm quite happy to tell people I bought my 1998 C2 911 996 for £6,550,
which is
two
crazy.
and a half years ago.
Crazy.
And they are nowhere near that. Mine's crusty. It's got high mileage. It's got 153,000 miles now. But
doesn't matter.
Everything works. Yeah, everything works on it, and it's immense fun. And I don't have that anxiety of leaving it somewhere, getting scratched or anything like that. And with the 912, it's the same. If I sold that now, would I be able to get another one? The way prices are going, it's very unlikely.
But would you? No, you couldn't with a 912. No way. I mean, look, there's the crazy prices that we see in 912s, and I'm sure you follow them every now and again. The crazy prices in the US on Bring a Trailer, even on collecting cars. There's crazy prices out there. The prices in Europe are insane. Some of those prices on classiccars.co.uk that search the European sites, some of those prices are insane for the 912. And some of them don't even look that well restored to me. I did see that one, and I don't know whether I sent it to you. I did see that one in the UK that just came up. I think I did send it to you, actually.
Yes.
The black one, which I thought was... And I sent it to you because just for your information, because I know what you paid for your 912, and this one is a little bit more. But is it a lot better than yours? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? It seemed to have a little bit of work done on it. They said that it had work at Revival 912. I just thought that one was actually quite a good price. In comparison to the market in the US, which is insane,
Yes.
Where they're going for $90,000 and, $85,000 and something now. They're going crazy, which is top dollar. And I guess there has been some in the UK for that price, Ajmal. There have been some for like £59,000 and stuff at Rint, but they're really well restored. They're really well sorted.
Exactly. They are pretty much as new. The Rint vehicle design one, the one that they've currently got, the
which is
early one is nut and bolt. It's completely brand new car. Whereas I still think mine was reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And the fact that I knew Flat Six Jack, that he could get it on working for me in a really cost-effective way, and I've been able to enjoy it and tweak it and do all of these things with it. But if I went to sell it, I don't know what I'd get for it. And a lot of the ones that I see for sale are at those inflated prices. Be honest, they are inflated.
Yes.
How many of them are actually selling?
True.
Because mine, the ones that I see selling are the ones that are similar price to mine. Now, mine it works. It's great fun to drive. It needs fettling, but there's some bits that I think, I'd probably get that done better. It's not matching numbers.
But you can drive it and enjoy it. You can drive it and enjoy it. That's the main thing.
Exactly. And so it's one of those things where you go, do I want to throw that much money into it?
So here's the question, though: would you be tempted? Because the making your way up the ladder, like what Bobby did in this week's Owner Stories. Getting to his 911, and obviously you've already got a 911. You've got a 911. You've got a 912. You got a 912. You got to most people that's like, wow, let me be there. Let me be there. Do you know what I mean? I still haven't got a 912 due to other reasons, but would you be tempted though to trade those in, put them on collecting cars, put them on wherever you could get the most dollars for them, and get something like a newer air-cooled? Would you do that, or would you rather have something that's more modern?
Well, for me, my 911 is my daily car. It's my everyday car. So, I've got a car seat in there for my 2.5-year-old, my 6-year-old. The three of us go out probably a couple of times a week in it. Okay. And anything that I get would have to be able to do that. And I guess if I went for, a 964 or a 993, I could do that.
Still got back seats, yeah. But how does the Boxster fit in then? How does the Boxster fit into this plan?
So the Boxster thing was a similar kind of thing to what I did when I set out on the 911 journey, the 996. It was, can you still get one? And my problem is that I've become attached to the 911 and the 912.
Yeah, I think you should keep both.
And I'm totally giving away my next video that I've already recorded for YouTube. But I've totally become attached to them, and that's the problem. And with the Boxster, the aim is to buy it, enjoy it for a maximum of 2 months, and just sell it. And hopefully, as a minimum, for the same price that I paid for it.
Oh, right, because they're going up in value. Because they are going up in value.
Yes.
I was just talking to my wife about that when I went out to renew the rent-a-car that we have here in Bahrain. And I was saying, that Boxster in Sydney, And it's top dollar, the one I'm looking at. It's 44 grand, right? 44,000 Australian dollars. But it's, very good condition, whatever. That's what I'm tending to look at more of the better looking ones. But I said to her, that 44 grand car, I will guarantee you that in 6 months, it will be 55, 60 grand, that car. Boxster prices will go up that quick. Look at how quickly 996 prices went up. It's insane.
Yeah.
They literally doubled. They literally doubled very quickly. In Australia anyway, and I'm sure the UK as well, they were there for 39 grand and now they're there for 69, 75 grand for the same car with high mileage. They're at the price.
Insane.
It is, Ajmal. They're at the price of a 997 almost, of what I almost paid for my 997. Which is that's the market. That's the market at the moment.
Yeah, and I think the way that I've been looking at it with a Boxster, again, it was I set myself a limit that's unrealistic, and it was deliberately unrealistic. It was that I would buy one for about £2,000.
Wow,
and it would be
get
working.
It that cheap?
It's been a bit of a struggle, but
2,000.
That it would be working for that much, and I've seen a couple that have come up, and the difficulty I've had is I've not been in a position where I can go and just pick it up.
Aren't you going to be opening yourself up to like so many costs at that price? I'm just trying to find something to tell you about. But aren't you going to be opening yourself up to so many expenses when you're looking at something so cheap with the Boxster that had the 986
yes.
Boxster first generation that had so many issues,
Oh yeah, and that's the whole thing. I guess that's part of the journey. But I would buy it as a working car with MOT, and I've seen a couple where one needed a clutch, one needed something else, and you go, I don't really want those. There's some that are, I don't know what it's like in other countries, but here they call it recorded, and it means that it's been in an accident or it's had some kind of problem. Yeah, so I guess in the US you'd call it, it's not a clean title.
Right.
So I don't want to veer into anything that's been had sort of structural damage in the past and fixed, because I still have to go in it, and my children, one of them might go in it. But what's happened is the ones I'm looking at. So a couple have come up, and I thought, oh, that could be quite good. And the guy, there was one yesterday, and I thought, oh, I think I've done it.
Okay.
But the guy didn't want to sell it to me over the phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw it and I said, look, can I just pay you and I'll just send somebody to pick it up?
Why didn't?
No, but you have to. He felt really uncomfortable. He must have thought I was putting a scam or something. And I said, look, I'll just transfer you the money. It's just a bank transfer.
It's only $2,500.
Well, yeah, and it was like, I was just transferring the money. And he went, no, but how can you do that without seeing it? And I went, no, I really want to buy your car because I believe everything that you've said in the ad.
Yeah, that's funny, that scenario, because that's kind of like the scenario Steve had when he bought his GT3. His GT3 he was looking for so long, and it came up, and he's told the story. I'm sure you've heard the story.
Yeah.
It came up, and he contacted the guy literally straight away. He got the email alert about the ad going up on car sales in Australia, and he called the guy straight away, like almost immediately, and said, I'll take it. Subject to PPR, I'll take it. And the guy was like a bit hesitant, you know what I mean? Like, what is this crazy person? I just put this ad up.
Am I missing something? Yeah, exactly. That was exactly it. And he said, no, but you have to come and see it. So I messaged him. We messaged a couple of times and I said, right, okay, so I can come and see you on Wednesday. And then he replied, he didn't reply for 2 hours, and he replied saying it's sold.
Oh, really? So he didn't want to sell it to you? He sold it to someone else?
Because he sold it to somebody else who must have been able to get
I don't understand that.
Because he was far. It would have taken me 3 hours to get there.
So you're talking about Boxsters at around the £2,000, £3,000 mark. Brian sent me, Brian Hoop from Owner Stories, he sent me a link to one yesterday or the day before in the US on Craigslist, and it was a red one. I think it was 10,000 US, and I thought that was cheap. So that's what, is that £5,000? No, less than £5,000, is it? How much is 10,000 US?
No, 10,000 US at the moment is probably about 6 or 7.
So that's about 6 or 7, and I thought that was really cheap. I thought you couldn't get them much cheaper than that, unless you were buying as we say in Australia, a complete dog. You know what I mean? Like,
I could end up with a complete dog. I could. There's every possibility.
It's a good story, though.
Something. Yeah, and that's exactly it.
It's a good story.
It's that journey, and it's kind of full circle. Normally people go Boxster 911 or something else, 911 or a 944 or 924, whereas I'm kind of going 911. Boxster.
But Ajmal, the 912 and 911 are not going anywhere at the moment, though, right? You're keeping those.
No, yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Perfect. So you're going to have a three Porsche car garage with no garage.
With no garage, yeah. So there's a couple of things that I'm doing, and the thing is, as you know, I'm on a time limit. So I've got a couple of months because I left my day job.
Yes.
To just have a bit of fun and step out of the corporate world for a bit.
Yes.
And I thought, should I do something that's going to generate cash via my YouTube channel or whatever it is that I do, podcasting or whatever it might be. And I've not been able to devote enough time to it just because, we did a house move, we did a whole load of other stuff and life got in the way. And it's only now that I've got a bit of time. So, tomorrow, which the video might not be out actually by the time
have you bought one already? Have you bought?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Okay.
But I am. I'm meeting somebody who's been on a story before.
Oh, that's right. Just save that. Yeah, don't. Keep that as.
Where I'm doing reviews of other people's cars.
Yeah, that's going to be great. That's going to be great, actually.
Yeah, so it's that kind of thing that I'm doing. But there's.
Yeah, and he has a great car too. He has a great Porsche as well. My favorite. I won't give it away, but I'll say it's one of my favorite colors in air-cooled Porsches. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
And not to everyone's taste, but I like it.
It's not the Porsche that I'm driving, by the way.
I know you told me that. Which is even more exciting. Which is another car. And we're not going to give it away. You have to go to Flat Cap Driver YouTube channel. You have to go to Ajmal's YouTube channel and watch this video. When's it dropping? Tomorrow. Next day.
Well, I'm recording it tomorrow, so it's probably going to drop on Sunday. Yeah.
So on the weekend,
Sunday.
Go and watch it. I know the person who Ajmal's meeting up with, and I know the car. And it's a car, this car that you're reviewing is a car that comes up in a lot of owner stories that a lot of people have had one. And a lot of people are searching for the early ones. People want to get the early one. And I think it's going to be a good video. Hey, let's talk about what's been happening in the UK. Because I know that you went to a lot of events over summer. One that I was supposed to go to, Classics of the Clubhouse, but my work got in the way, unfortunately. How was it? How was Classics of the Clubhouse? Because I know it was a while ago, but it is a yearly event, and PJ does a good job with that. He does a really good job. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, it's is it at PJ Gibbons on Instagram? I think it's at PJ Gibbons.
I think it might be PJ_Gibbons.
PJ_Gibbons, or you just go to Classics at the Clubhouse. It's a regular event now. I think there's going to be on every year. It's been on for the past... I think you missed a year, right, because of COVID, but it was on the year before, so I think they missed 1 year. How was it showing your car? Tell the listeners what you did. You took your car there and showed it for the show?
Yeah, it was Jack, Flatsix Jack, who is my Porsche specialist and who's been brilliant. He had a stand and he had about 8 cars on there, and Nick, the Classic Series, was on there. There are a few others on there as well. And
for 1 second though, Jack, where's my T-shirt? That's all I'll say, Jack. Where's my T-shirt?
Well, I'm going to go and see him in a few days, so I'll remind him. He hasn't got me one yet, and I've seen him lots of times since. But
sorry, go ahead.
But it was so he had a load of cars there that all get our work done from him, but PJ did such an immense job, and his team, of getting the event on, because it was very early when lockdown restrictions were being eased. Yeah. And the amount of cars there, the amount of people there, the weather wasn't typically, in England, it wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't awful. And the amount of people there, the amount of people that I met, and just being able to, people that I've been messaging on Instagram, who've been messaging me through YouTube, who came over and said hello and said, "Oh, I see your channel," or they know me through PorscheCooled. And the amount of people said, "Oh, is Michael here?" Well, I wasn't able to make it last minute.
Really? I heard through someone that will remain unknown for now, but I heard you're a bit of a celebrity there. I heard you were very sought after. Everyone wanted to talk to you.
No, not that many. There were a few people who did come over and just to find me. And it was brilliant. It was really nice. And it was really great to talk to people face to face. And there were a few owners from owner stories. There were a couple. Was there. So that was really good. Yeah, and it was just a fantastic event. But
Well, Nick was
because
there. Nick was there, and PJ
Nick
was there.
Yeah, I had a really long chat with Nick, PJ, and obviously Nick. But when I don't get to drive my 912 very often, and when I was coming home, and I really pelted it home in the car just because the weather was about to turn, and I wanted to give it. And the country lanes around the venue were brilliant. PJ messaged me later in the day, and he said my wife was driving behind you. She said you were driving like you're in a rocket.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was just I just had an immense time driving back because those roads were just fantastic down there, all country lanes.
But it must have been a good thing, though. You know, you've had the 912 for some time, and then you go to this show. And, you know, even the fact, and this is not a celebrity thing, I'm just saying, but I remember I went to a Cars and Coffee in Sydney at a place called Balmoral, which was an order house, Cars and Coffee. And I don't know how long I had the YouTube channel for. And I think there was definitely two people that came up to me and said, oh, you have a YouTube channel. You know, I watched your video about the Fister exhaust. It was great. You know, these sort of things. It's kind of nice, and I like this with the podcast, and do you have that same feeling? It's kind of nice when people really appreciate what you do. You know what I mean? And I come back to this thing about helping other people. It's your journey, and you're doing what you want. Like you said, you're not doing it for views. You're doing it for yourself, and that's why people like it, and that's what people watch, and that's what people want to see, because they want to see the true stories. You know what I mean? And I know people try to fake it. You know, there's people on YouTube, you can see it. They're trying to fake that thing. But you just can't fake something like that. It just doesn't happen.
Exactly. And it's, you know, I like to think that it's because a lot of people are on the same journey.
Yeah, true.
And the amount of people who came to say hello, and, you know, I met their children and things like that. And it was just... It made me feel nice that I wasn't wasting my time doing it, and that people got where I was coming from, and that they were on a similar journey, and it resonated with them on the... I'm sorry, I used the word resonate. I know you don't like that word.
No, it's nice though, isn't it? I mean, look, I've had so many... This week I had a really, and I'm not going to call out the guy because I don't want to call it out, but I had a really nice message that came through a couple of days ago from a guy in the UK, and I'm sure if he's listening, he'll know who I mean. And it's hard for me to respond to messages like this because I just, you know, maybe I get embarrassed, Ajmal. I just, you know what I mean. It's very hard when people are so nice and so genuine and so honest and really appreciating what you do. It's somehow hard for me to say thank you enough in the right way that it actually means something. Do you know what I mean? Especially through Instagram. It's really weird. In real life, I can do it, you know what I mean? Because people can see that I'm being genuine, but on Instagram, it's really hard to take that sort of compliment and make the other person feel, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't know. It's social media thing. It's very difficult. It's very difficult.
It is, because when you're using just text and someone has taken the time to reach out to you to actually go, I've seen a video on YouTube and I'm going to find them on Instagram and I'm going to write them a message and say, I appreciate what you're doing. And it's, you know, it's kind of humbling because I'm sat there talking to a camera. And I don't think I'm talking to anybody. And it's just, you know, this is me, and I'm trying to, you know, maintain some kind of mental health, and I feel like I'm talking to something that can't talk back to me. But then when someone does respond, it's almost like talking into space, and then suddenly there's life out there, and someone responds back. It's kind of, you know, you want to express that in a way that says, do you know what? You don't know what this means.
Yeah,
when someone responds to me, and when someone comes and speaks to me, and when I was at Box and Gas, and someone actually came over to talk to, and you know, I was stood in the queue to get a burger, and I was starving, and someone walked in who was just coming into the event, and they were a family, and someone looking at me, and I'm thinking, why are they looking at me? Have I just got like mayonnaise on my face or something? And a guy came over and said, "Oh, I watch your channel," and his wife came over, and they were from, I think, Holland.
Oh, okay.
And they came over, and I chatted to them for about 10 minutes, and his wife almost interrogated me about, can a 996 be a family car?
Oh, really?
And I went, well, yes, and I take my children in it, and it was, but it felt like, oh, someone's actually listening, and someone's actually not just listening for silly entertainment value, but it's actually information. And it becomes a thing where you think, do I have a duty to provide accurate information? Which I guess I try and do.
I think it's when if you think back to that very first video that you put up, you know what I mean? You make a video and you put it up and you think, no one's going to watch this. But when you actually upload it and you publish it on YouTube, the first real video, and for me it was, trying to be sensible video from way back in 2016. The videos before that were just all rubbish, basically. But that one was the first one that I did when I started talking about Porsche. And I remember, I remember recording that video. I remember, it was an evening in Sydney. It was late at night. I came downstairs. I had like this new Sony A7S camera that I bought, and I set it all up, and I did this video. And the framing was all out. It was terrible framing. But it was one of those videos that when I put it out, it was like people responded to it a lot. You know what I mean? And it was like this thing, and it was like, wow, people are actually watching this. And it's that realization that you are actually putting stuff out that people want to do, want to listen to, want to watch. But I think the comments is what you just said then, I think it hits it on the mark. People go to the effort. It's like doing a review. It's like sending a DM. It's like writing a comment. Yep. Everyone is busy. Listening to this podcast, you know what I mean? Listening to the podcast for an hour, giving up an hour of your time to listen to the podcast. Even you coming on the podcast, you know what I mean? Like these things that you do because, it's something you enjoy and it's something you want to share and it's something, you meet people that you want to connect. You meet people you want to connect, you connect with. And that's what's really good about it. That's what's really good about what you and I think are doing.
Yeah. And
we're going off track. Sorry. I don't know what's wrong.
No, I think that you're right, because the community is an important thing, and to talk about it is a good thing, because when, I always want people to come and talk to me. And the thing is, during the week when people send me comments on YouTube, for example, or DMs on Instagram, I don't do them a quick flippant response. Sometimes I take a long time to respond because I have to go somewhere, find a quiet space in a coffee shop and sit there and go through all of them and give them a proper response that they deserve. And especially the ones, I don't know if you've noticed recently, I've started doing the end word in my videos. So I give a word at the end.
Yeah.
That people have to quote in the messages to tell me that they watched it till the end.
Yep.
Yeah, and
that's good. I like that.
And it's been so funny, and I've had great fun thinking of the words and then interacting with people on that word, and then and the questions that I've had about and the suggestions that I've had. It's been amazing that people have just taken the time, and on YouTube, it's not that you're just listening to it in the car or on a run or anything like that. They're sitting down and watching it. Yeah. So I appreciate that, because people are going to the effort and that they deem what I put out there worthy of their time. So it's nice. It makes me feel quite good.
So going back to these shows, you met a lot of listeners and a lot of the people that watch your channel. So you went to Classics at the Clubhouse. That's PJ.
Yep.
Looked great. Yep. I saw the photos. Great images from Nick at the Classic Series. Great images from PJ. Sunburnt Lobster was there as well. Yep.
I didn't see him there.
Oh, he wasn't there?
I can't remember if he was. I think he was there, but I didn't see him that time.
And then you went to Box and Gus, which had all good intentions to go there. I think Nick at the Classic Series reached out to me and said, "Are you going?" And I said, "I'm absolutely going." And then we had to come to Bahrain, I think 3 days before, so I missed out on that. How was Box and Gus? Was good, because Box and Gus is quite big, isn't it? It's a lot bigger than Classics at the Clubhouse.
Do you know what? They felt kind of on a par, but it just felt more established.
Right.
And it was
it's more like Luft, right? Box and Gus is supposed to be it's a bit more Luft-like, isn't it?
Yes,
in a way.
Yeah, it's a bit more of a mix, but it was Porsche heavy because it's at Auto Farm, and you get lots and lots of and you've got Porsche there.
Yeah.
Porsche Vintage Classic. They've got lots.
Yeah, it's all well sponsored, isn't it?
Yeah, and you had some really amazing cars that Porsche 959. You've got original Carrera RS, that kind of stuff. It's just you're blown away by that content.
Yeah, there's great cars. I saw them. He's always got, his Instagram is fantastic. Box and Gus's Instagram, or Black Betty and Co.
Yes.
It's great Instagram. Great Instagram. I noticed I noticed that Duck and Whale was one of the sponsors, the magazine from Australia. I noticed he was one of the sponsors of that Box and Gus on the poster, which I was surprised.
Yes. So I mean, the sponsors are amazing for that one, and the amount of people who were there. And the sponsors that were there, and you can always tell the success of an event by the food trucks.
Oh, there was a lot of food trucks.
Yeah, there were a lot of food trucks, and there were a lot of queues for the food trucks.
Oh, really? That's good.
So it was, and there were a lot of former owners there, and I wanted to get from owner stories, and I wanted to get a group photo, and I totally forgot.
Oh, really? So who was there?
And so Nick was there.
Yeah.
Obviously, PJ.
Yeah. Anyone else that hasn't come?
Mark Dempsey.
Mark Dempsey, yeah.
Yeah. Who else? There was somebody else. Somebody Lobster, Jack. He was there.
Yep. Somebody told me they were going, actually. Someone sent me a message and said they were going to be there. Oh, I can't remember who it was.
There must be somebody else. Because we went in a bit of a train of cars from near where I live.
Fantastic.
There were probably about 6 or 7 or 8. And I was in my 911 because I couldn't get the 912 out of storage.
The Endless Porsche Summer, as I called it to you earlier today. I think the Endless Porsche Summer. I was thinking of that movie, The Endless Summer. Is that what the movie's called? The Endless Summer? Fried eggs. What's fried eggs? Is fried eggs Road to Renline people? Is that who it is, or is it somebody else?
Yes, so it's Lee Sibley.
Oh, it is Lee Sibley.
That 911 guy.
Okay.
So he owns a 90s 911.
Yes.
And 996.
Yes.
And it's a 996 gathering.
How was that?
I was quite. It was really.
That looked
good.
Quite small. Was it? Was it quite small?
It was very small, and it was at a car restoration venue, and it was a bit of a drive.
Right.
But it was great to meet people, and that was another one where people came over and said, "Oh, I do watch your channel." So that was really nice. But then obviously,
sorry, Ajmal, did you say, are you subscribed? Don't just watch my channel. Subscribe to my channel.
Do you hit like? You need to hit like.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Bully them. No, it was, and it was, when I got there, and even the cars that were sort of, slightly older and not the pristine garage ones that, that just sit in a garage. They were well-used ones. They were all clean and polished. And
oh, really?
Mine was
so
there.
You went there
mine
dirty?
Was there looking, yeah. Well, I parked it around as far back as from the front as I could. But it wasn't that
I think it's
back.
a good idea, though. I think it's a good idea for a show. I think he's, just having mainly 996s, good name as well. I think it's actually a pretty good idea. Someone should do one for the 997, just a 997 show.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe you could do a flat cap driver drive or show or something. Maybe
well, people keep telling me that I need to have an event called the Milk Run.
Oh, perfect. That's perfect. You shouldn't have given that away. People are going to steal that when they hear that. Be very careful giving away ideas, Ajmal. People take them.
I know.
Trust me.
I am very free and easy giving ideas away, and whatever pops into my head, I just say it in a video.
What was Cafe in the Machine? I keep seeing Cafe in the Machine on Seen Through Glass and other people's YouTube channels where people go there and park out the front. I see the images on Instagram. I saw you took a photo there as well. What is Cafe in the Machine? What is that for people coming to the UK?
So it's Caffeine and Machine. So
Cafe
it's
Machine.
Okay. Caffeine. So it's near Stratford, and it's just a car. It's a car themed cafe, hotel, just a place for people to gather. And during the week, you can just pop there and go for a coffee, sit in the yard, chat to other like-minded people. There's always really interesting cars. But once a month, they have this, I think it's the last Wednesday of the month, they have the Air-Cooled Appreciation Society, and where you have to buy a ticket, and it's all very controlled where you come in and park. And I was lucky enough to arrive at just the right time where I was told to park right at the front. Front and center, and it was really nice because people came to have a look, and people messaged me on Instagram and said, "I've seen your car." few people said, "Oh, let's have a chat," and I was too busy chatting to people that I didn't see the messages until much later. And so it was from 5 o'clock till about 10, and I think I left there about 10:30. I was there.
Cool.
I had a long chat with Simon Jessup, who was there.
Seems like a nice guy. Takes great photographs.
He does.
Yeah, great photographs.
He does a lot of work with Rent Vehicle Design. He does a lot of their photography.
Yeah,
and
like
he's and he's got 1968, I think, Porsche 912.
Yeah.
Right-hand drive one, so I'm very jealous.
Yeah, he's talking about changing the color of it. He was talking about changing the color of it on Instagram. Yes, he was.
Yes. Yep. So he's been toying with that, and he's bought himself a 993.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, he's got 993 as well, which I saw at that Air Cooled Appreciation Society. It looks fantastic.
Fantastic. Have you seen the YouTube? Have you seen the person on Instagram who's restoring the 912? And they posted a seat. They posted a picture of their seat yesterday. Actually, it's 912_project. 9_project. And I looked at the seats because the seats are beautiful. You should check out the Instagram. They were restored by Gary, actually, at Classic FX. Gary's a really good guy. Really great company.
Gary.
But they've got their 912. It's 912_project. And what I really like about it is I really like the color. Can you see the gray?
Oh, yes.
And I've been looking through 912 colors because I had this crazy idea of buying a 912 like the ones you used to send me, which were rust buckets and like not really working and they're just falling apart. And I thought maybe I should be doing that and just do a complete restoration and not worry about matching numbers or whatever and just paint it the color I want and just have this car, which is just my car.
But would it be a PorscheCooled runoff?
Yeah, and I really like that idea. And I really like, there's also someone in Sydney that's got a 912 project as well. I don't know whether you've seen those. I think maybe they're in Australia. I don't know if they're in Sydney. And they're doing the same thing. But I really like this guy's color that he's chosen, this gray. I think it's a really unique gray. And I've been looking up 912. Yeah, and I've been looking up 912 colors. And there's a color there was a color that came up. I don't know if it's not called cloud, but there was a gray color that came up. And apparently you can't find any images of it. It's like one of these really rare colors. I don't know whether you've gone through all the 912 colors, Ajmal, but there's some really interesting ones there. You could actually do a respray. How much do you think it costs to respray a 912?
Oh my God! If the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit depending on what you want to do. I mean, it's just insane. It depends how high quality you want it to be. You
know where I'm leading here. Would you be tempted? And I know you're transitioning at the moment, so not transitioning, but you're transitioning and you've taken some time off, you're doing YouTube. Would you be tempted to do that to your 912 where you say, okay, I'm going to put in another 30,000 pounds. I'm going to do the interior. I'm going to respray it. I'm going to do glass out. I'm going to do everything and fix it so it's, perfect.
No, because do you know why?
Why?
It would give me no greater pleasure as an object that I own.
Would you worry more about it? Is that what the problem is? You'd worry more?
I would, because it would become more of an investment and a bundle of money rather than a thing that I can just jump in and enjoy.
Good point.
And I'm very careful about not doing that because which is why I've never wanted to buy a new car. And when my wife bought a brand new Golf R like 4 years ago, I didn't want to drive it.
Right.
I had this anxiety of I don't want to be the one to scratch it, and it was always that thing, And whereas with my 911, my 912, even my MGB, I get immense pleasure from driving them just on the most mundane journeys, like getting the milk.
Yeah.
I can just get in it at any time, no matter what the weather is, and just go. And I can go anywhere, I go and visit friends who live hundreds of miles away in my 911, and I don't care about the miles. In fact, I want more miles on it. So it's that it becomes an object to look at and an investment, and I am not really
right.
That's not my kind of thing.
The experience is lost.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who do that. Yeah, exactly. And if you look at people who, when you hear Spike Car Radio, when you hear about people who are buying cars and they're buying them strategically and they're buying them in a way that says
no mileage,
Exactly, and then they're going to get rid of them very quickly, and they're going to do it in a way that they'll make. I probably need to have my thinking to go that way, but I don't. I just think about it. How much joy is it going to give me when I jump in it every day?
Before we go, I just want to ask you, there's one question I did want to ask you. When you went to Classics of the Clubhouse, Nick from the Classic series has been on Owner Stories before. If the listeners haven't heard that story, go and search back. I think, Ajmal, you were number 3, weren't you? I can't remember what number Nick was. I think he was about 5 or 6 after that, or maybe 10 after that.
Yeah, something like
remember.
that, yeah.
So when you went to Classics of the Clubhouse, and Nick bought his white 912. I remember when he first messaged me when I came back to London, and he sent me a picture of it. He was going to buy this white 912. I don't know how long ago that was, maybe a year ago. When you went to Classics of the Clubhouse, what was it like seeing his 912 and seeing your 912? Did you notice anything? You know what I mean? Like I don't want to give away how much Nick paid for his, but did you notice anything that surprised you?
No, I've got to admit I'd seen it before.
Okay.
I'd seen it before, only briefly because it was at Jack's, and I went to see Jack about something, and I just had a wander around it. That was it.
Okay.
But it was, and also I'd seen pictures of it because Nick and I had been messaging on Instagram.
Right.
And I thought he'd got a great car. It looks fantastic, and just the way that and the work that him and Jack have done on it, the way that it sits. But as with anything, when you talk to him, he'll say, "I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that." He'll have a list of things that he wants to do. He wants it to ride better. He wants it to be more reliable, more usable. All of the things that you speak to anyone with a car that age, who it's not mint and a garage queen, then it's the same things. Yeah.
As I said a while back, I think it'd be great to get you and Nick on the podcast and chat about the 912. Actually, the 912 experience. I think that'd be a good 3-way conversation to have maybe sometime in the future.
It really would, because every time I see him, we're too busy chatting to other people and looking at things because we're always at an event. Yeah. So he's taking photographs, I'm chatting to people, vice versa. And then before you know it, you say, "Oh, we'll chat next time." And then you're gone again, and he lives over. And so it's one of those things where it'd be great to properly chat to him about the 912 ownership experience.
He seems to be really enjoying it. I mean, some of those images that him and PJ have been posting and the images that PJ has been doing of Flat 6 Jack are just fantastic. I just saw one just then, actually. It just came up when I was looking. It's like the images have such a good feel about them. They're really fantastic, those images.
And Jack's got the coolest shop.
Yeah, and he's got the cool shop, and he's got PJ taking the photo images. And then Nick of the Classic series, the image that Nick put up today at that petrol station, that old sort of petrol station, and whether you've seen that image, what a cool image. I don't know where that station is, but if it's near you, Ajmal, you should take a photo there as well. It's a great setting.
I don't know where it is, because PJ lives down the road from me, really close.
Yeah, it's a great setting.
But Nick lives quite far away. And it's just that the being at those events and meeting those people has been amazing, because I've gone with Jack, or I've gone with a group of people that I kind of know as part of that community. So it's not like you're just turning up by yourself. I mean, Cafe in the Machine, I went by myself, but I knew Simon Jessup would be there. But I met, you just walk up to somebody and say, "I really like your car," and they'll chat to you all day. So
get Simon to take some photos of your car.
I'm gonna have to. I need someone to take them, where they're not using a phone.
Yeah, get some cool shots. Get some cool shots, and you can reuse them.
Something that you just said, I meant to comment on. When you said that you did that video, and the first one that you put up on YouTube with your Sony camera. And the first video that I did, it was exactly that feeling that I had was, I'm just going to put it online. No one's going to look at it. No one's ever going to watch it. So I went on Amazon, and I bought a camera, like an action camera, for I think it was £25 or £28.
Right.
And which is why, for the first sort of, and then for I think £9, I bought this sucker thing that went on the screen.
And then you went up to GoPro. You think you need better?
Yeah, and it was just everyone was saying, "Bloody hell, dude, I can't hear what you're saying." And it wasn't. I listened to it back and I got, "Oh my god, this is awful."
But your sound's always really good because you have you've got the little Rode microphone, right? Your sound is always good in the car. I've got to get one of those actually when I eventually get back to Sydney. They're good, those little wireless. I know they brought out they've got a new version of it that's just come out, which is supposed to be even better.
So there's two of them. So I'll use two together.
Yeah.
There's one is the Rode wireless one. So it's the two-piece thing. One that goes on the camera, one that you can clip on, and you can use it as an interviewing mic or just on your. But then, because there was some guy, I can't remember his name. He did a review of an additional Rode one that you plug into the remote device, the transmitter.
The lav mic you plug into it, right?
That's the one, yes. Yeah. And that one just takes it up a notch. And also, if you're sat next to somebody talking to them, when I was interviewing Jack. In his shop, that one, I was sat next to him wearing that mic, and his sound recorded really well. So I want to do more, collaborations with people, but my kit isn't up to it. So I need to think about what I'm going to get. And even, doing,
you don't need that.
Even
much,
doing
though.
even doing this, us chatting, I want that to be better.
Yeah.
So it's it's always a bit of a money pit, but. Got to do it.
I mean, we didn't mention it at the beginning, but everyone knows this is done by Zoom. And most people know that Ajmal's in the UK and I'm in Bahrain. So there are always some sound issues every now and again. I've had one major catastrophe with the audio in my podcast, only one, and that was with Steve. And it was a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if anyone noticed, but it took me hours to fix it. It took me absolute hours and hours to fix it. But in general, it's pretty reliable. It's pretty reliable the way I've got it set up. But this is the thing about anything that you make, any content, you've got your setup you like, and you just keep using that because you know how to set it up and you know how to use it. I find with filming YouTube videos, I still found that even after, the last time when I was really filming them, except when they're in the house and I'm filming a watch or a tech thing or whatever that I used to do, I still find with a car that I'm not really comfortable in filming properly. I don't feel set up properly, you know what I mean, Ajmal? The only time I really feel set up is when I'm in the car driving and I've got the GoPro on the windscreen, and that's the easiest one to do for me. I find that's still the easiest one to do. The outside of the cars and those sort of things, I find them quite tedious.
Yeah, I do too. And I don't, and I also feel it's not me. Because I don't feel it's adding anything. And one of the things that I've been toying with, and it's something I'll talk about in the next video, but it's more about how do you then make it more accessible for people? Should I then convert it into a podcast as well? So it's just an audio thing.
Ooh, podcast.
But it's for me, it's how do I make it more digestible for people rather than having to make time and sit and it's not. I insert bits of video and images and things like that of what I'm talking about, whether I'm talking about something about the car that I've done or might need doing or is broken or I've seen something. But sometimes it is just literally like the last video is completely unedited. It's just me getting in the car and driving. And I could just talk on and on and on. And sometimes I have to think in my head, stop.
Sorry, when you say unedited though, when you say unedited, you mean you don't watch it through at all? You just literally trust what you've got on the video and you just load it up, or you review it before you upload it? The
last one I didn't watch.
Really? Wow.
No, it was simply because I was out of time. And I recorded it in the morning. And the way the process works is I do it on my GoPro, then from the GoPro I have to download it to the GoPro app. Then from there I have to download it to my phone, then I upload it to iMovie.
Yes.
Not a great way to do it.
Not great.
And then exactly.
limited functionality with iMovie.
Absolutely. And then from
Final Cut is better if you're going to do it. Final Cut.
Exactly. So I need to refine that process, but then I have to download it back to my phone and then upload it to YouTube. So, all I had time for was record it, trim the ends of it, and upload it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it does take a long time. And, people say, the podcast must be easy. I edit every podcast, and I don't edit it to edit things out so the listeners miss out on things. I edit the gaps. I fix up the problems with the audio. Sometimes I may cut out, filler words. Because I know there's people out there who get really annoyed with the filler words that I use. Sometimes I cut them out. Recently I don't. I just leave them in. I think what people don't understand though, Ajmal, is when you have a podcast, and I think until you do it, and I think people who've been on Owner Stories really understand it. Because I've had so many people on Owner Stories who at first are a bit nervous. you weren't one of them, but people are, because you've done this sort of thing before, but people are a bit nervous because one, it's your own voice. Two, you don't know what to say. You think you might, and that's why I say it's just think of we're not recording, it's just a chat. And the way I like to do it, and I think we're getting distracted from the Porsche story here, but the way I like to do it, and there are going to be there are going to be, you know what I mean, there are going to be those things in there. And I know some people hate hearing it, but that's kind of how a podcast works, because it's not always easy talking ad lib. It's not always just talking off the cuff, you know what I mean? And you understand what this is like when you're in your car. We're talking off the cuff, we don't have notes we're following. We're just talking. And I still think that's what's great about it. And that's why I'm never going to get rid of all those words out of the podcast.
And it's the thing I like about the podcast, and it's more, I guess it's how I go from tangent to tangent and meander through topics when I'm in the car. It's a journey. It's, and it goes through different topics, and it's, and it connects different aspects of Porsche ownership throughout that conversation.
Yep.
When you're talking to Steve, and Steve has a different way of looking and perceiving some of the things, and the way you come together, you might have seen something. He'll say, actually, I haven't seen that, but he has an opinion on it. And the opinion is, it's not one of a YouTuber. It's you're not trying to get hits. You're not trying to be current. What you're doing is saying, I have an interest in something, and I'm just sharing it to whoever wants to listen.
Absolutely. Ajmal.
And that's the bit I love about it.
Fantastic. Shall we end it? As I say, shall we end it? It's getting late.
I thought you said, shall we end it? Shall I kill myself? No, I don't want to do that.
We should end it. It's 11:30 here in Bahrain. I know it's 9:30 in London. I think we're done. We've done an hour. I hope the listeners enjoyed that. I know it wasn't always about Porsche, but I just wanted to have this chat with you today because, I did just hit 50 owner stories this week with Bobby's owner story. And I know you were number 3, and you've been on the podcast a few times now. And I just thought it'd be good to have you back on. And I shouldn't have done it such last minute. So I really appreciate you coming on. So thanks a lot for that, mate.
It's always immense fun. And it's been a privilege being on every single time. And I just, it's been really good.
Thanks, mate.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Anything else you want to share with the listeners before we go? Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe to my channel because I really need it. But the thing that I was saying to a lot of people who've reached out to me via the channel, and there's been a few people who've said, "Oh, I listened to the 100th podcast."
That was the last time you were on
podcast. Yeah, and a few people have messaged me and said, "Oh, I've just listened to the 100th one, and they really enjoyed it." And that was another one of those things where you think, "Oh, wow, someone heard it, and then took the time to find me on Instagram and send me a DM." So that was really good.
Oh, cool.
It's one of those things that you just think, "Wow, that's pretty cool."
Yeah, true. That was 36 episodes ago, by the way. 36 episodes ago. Wow. I've been really slack. I'm sorry, I've been slack.
So I don't know if you've told. I think you did mention it actually on the last one where you did the solo podcast about when I said to you the 50th owner story should be you.
Yeah, no.
And Steve should be interviewing you about in the same format of your journey from where you were in Australia growing up and what your history with Porsche is that's taking you to where you are.
I think though people have heard that though, because I think I always sort of talk about it, and maybe I spoke about it more in the earlier episodes where I sort of just give a little bit here and there. I know you said that, and I thought it was a good idea, and I mentioned it in last week's podcast and also at the beginning of Owner Stories. But I just wanted to keep it just being about other people. You know what I mean?
No, I get that.
I said, I've also had other people approach me who are, like I said, reasonably well known and established. Who I haven't actually had on the podcast. And my wife thought I was a bit stupid not having them on, but I just decided that it was just better to keep it just normal guys. You know what I mean?
Was it Jerry Seinfeld? Was it Jerry Seinfeld?
I wish. But I always have ideas, Ajmal. I always have ideas of different sort of spin-offs, which I've been talking about doing, one that I have been thinking about for a while, but I just don't have the time to do it at the moment. I'm struggling at the moment even to keep up the schedule of the 2 episodes a week. So we'll see how that goes in the next couple of weeks. Ajmal, thank you. Let's go. Let's call it a night.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Like I said, if you haven't been to Ajmal's Instagram or YouTube channel, it is at FlatCapDriver on Instagram and FlatCapDriver on YouTube. Make sure, I'm going to say it, make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe and watch some of his videos. And if you haven't watched, to listeners in the US and Europe who hasn't seen Ajmal before, make sure you watch those early videos with the 912 when he first picks up the 912 and drives it. And when he drives it, the one he drives for the very first time is still one of my favorites. The one when it breaks down.
Well, it doesn't break down. It's,
yeah, I know. Don't give it away. Don't give it away. Let people find out themselves. It's a good one. It's a good one. All right, everyone.
Are we? Hang on. Do we still not? Because I haven't sworn on this one.
Yeah, we don't.
Oh, we don't do that.
No.
Because Steve normally swears, and I feel like I'm stepping in for him. I should say fuck or something.
There you go. It's done. It's done already. All right. Thank you, Ajmal.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to the PorscheCooled Podcast. That's it for today. Bye for now.